Do you struggle saying no or asking questions when you're faced with an authority figure? Are you always looking outside of yourself to others who know more when it comes to your health and healing journey? The sad truth is that we do live in a world where we have been taught to constantly outsource our health since childhood. We've been taught we can't trust ourselves and that others know what's best for us. And in this, we have completely given our power away and ruined our health. Just look at how sick our culture has become after trusting Big Ag and Big Pharma over the last few decades, who were supposedly looking out for our health in food and healing. We're sicker than ever. So, how do we actually start in sourcing our health decisions and really reclaim back our individual sovereign divine power and knowing that our body is able to heal? That is exactly what we're talking about in this episode. So, stay tuned. Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. All right, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited for today's topic and the timing of this sort of airing around the holidays and around starting a new year, because this is such an important piece of our healing journey when it comes to especially our binging patterns with sugar and food, is understanding where in our life we might be completely giving our power away and outsourcing our decisions about health and healing to people outside of us that may be in a position of power or authority. Now, before we dive into today's episode, if you haven't heard already, I have to mention, so excited to be kicking off another round of my annual Break Free from Sugar program. I only host this once a year. It's kicking off the next group in early 2024, and the extra early bird registration is open right now. Now, I'm mentioning this program here because this topic we're talking about today is exactly what we do inside the program. I'm going to share more about that at the end of the episode. It'll all make sense. But if you want to come check it out and get early access to this once in a lifetime program and experience, come and get your name on the wait list below in the show notes. Now, let's talk about outsourcing our health. Let's dive in, okay? Because this is going to be a really blunt episode. I'm going to warn all of you. I'm going to share some things that are probably going to trigger you and are probably going to rub you the wrong way and are probably going to really test your belief systems and your view of the world. And I just want you to know that I'm coming at this with so much love and compassion. And my goal in sharing this information with you and sharing what I've learned and is to help you become a stronger, more sovereign version of yourself, right? And ultimately to help you feel more empowered within your life, within your community, within your country, and within your relationship with food. All of this is connected. I mean, this is the inner work that I'm always talking about here on the episode. So trust me, this definitely has a connection with how you're using food, right? To outsource maybe a sense of control that you don't feel within. But there's a lot of reasons. So when we talk about outsourcing our health, I'm talking deeply about this truth that we have gotten ourselves into a system and a society and a world where we tend to trust officials to know what's best for us. So whether that's doctors, teachers, police, our government, our parents even, right? And every time we do this, we give our power away to these authority figures. We build a deep-rooted pattern and belief system that these other people know what's best for us, and they are going to have our best interests at heart. And the sad truth is that is not how the world works. But this has been going on since childhood. We have spent decades not listening to or trusting ourselves and our body. We've been taught to trust everyone outside of ourselves. And what's really going on here when we look at this on a big societal scale is that we have been taught to not freely think, to not be free thinkers, to live and operate in a world actually instead riddled by toxic food and needing to live by certain rules to fit in and survive in a society. Now, I don't care what country in the world you live in, this is happening, right? And even if you don't live in a dictatorship country, this happens, right? We live in a patriarchal society that has put controls on the way that we're allowed to live, what we're allowed to do, what we're allowed to wear, and even what we're allowed to eat, right? There's more this false sense of being controlled that is really stifling our ability to be ourselves and to live freely and speak freely. And now, because of the toxic food, the toxins, the pharmaceuticals, the drugs in our water, all the things, right, that have created a toxic load in our body and our mind, is we now don't even bat an eye when someone tells us to do something, right? It's this like jump and we jump, right? And we blindly, as a society, not everyone, and I know there are a lot of free thinkers listening to this podcast, and it's like, hallelujah, I love that. And I want all of us to become more free thinkers, right? And become our sovereign selves, which essentially just means free in ourselves, right? Free human beings that do not need to be controlled in the mind or the body with toxic food and all this stuff, right? I was actually just watching this example just came to me as I was thinking about, starting to record this episode. I was rewatching the Hunger Games series again recently, and such a like, what a wild show, right? If you haven't seen it, but there's an episode in one of the later, or a scene, sorry, in one of the later movies where Gail. Where they had stormed the capital city and they were trying to, the rebels were taking back control over their lives and themselves because they had been controlled in such a powerful way, right? And actually, people were being killed and it was miserable. So they were in the capital city where all the rich people lived and all the the dictators, for lack of a better term, and they were in one of the rich people's homes and actually eating their food because they were, everybody had been evacuated and this place was empty. So they were eating the food and it was just a crap food, like processed food. It was so rich. It was definitely loaded with sugar. And I remember he said something well, if they're eating like this, I can see why they're easily brainwashed and controlled. And that really hit home for me because I see that going on for us as well. When we are eating crap food, filling our body with pharmaceuticals, drugs, and all the medications that we have to be taking, the antidepressants and the statins and the all the stuff that we take, right? And I'm not passing judgment here. I know that there are some of you listening to this with major illnesses, and those medications might be like really helping you, which is fantastic. So I'm not blanket statementing anything here, but on a bigger scale, right? How much of eating fake food, right? Even, oh my gosh, like the fake meat that's showing up now, the Beyond Meat, the crickets, like, oh my, like what is happening to our food system? We're no longer eating whole real foods. And what is this actually doing to our pineal gland, to our ability to actually feel safe to be expressed, to be ourselves, and to ask questions? And there is a big part of that makes us, when we are sick as a culture and tired and addicted to sugar and binge drinking and numbing out in our addictive patterns, we are really, really easy to sway and control. And this is not a new political, and I'm not going down a political rant here in this episode, don't worry, but this is not a new way of societies operating, right? This is known for centuries that when we can control people with fear or with what they're eating and how they feel in their body, if they feel dependent on us, right? And a lot of us have gotten to a place where we feel dependent. We feel dependent on the government to look after us, the food industry. We feel dependent on big pharma to supply us with the drugs that we need to stay alive. And we have begun to think that we need these drugs or we need these people to survive. And that's actually not the truth. We've spent a lifetime, especially as women, getting sucked into even the diet industry, the billion-dollar diet industry, ruining our mental relationship with ourselves and with food. Right now, we're stuck in this black and white, all or nothing thinking, or the deep shame around eating certain foods because they were bad back when I did Weight Watchers. Right? There's so much confusion around food, right? And confusion is a great way for people of power, whether it's governments or big ag and big pharma, to come in and solve our problems with their magic pill, right? And this is on a big level. I mean, we've all seen the movies. Like, we know that this works for making people do what we want them to do in order to maybe make money off of them or to get power. If we think back to Roman times, right? Or like ways of, political leaders to gain traction. I mean, all of this is at play, and you're not immune to it. In your little world, you might not, be into politics. You might not be thinking these bigger pictures, and that's okay. Absolutely. Sometimes it's really helpful to not get sucked into all of that. But I want you to really start questioning, like, what is happening at a bigger scale here? Because medicine and science, so we're going to bring this back to specifically talking about our health, right? Medicine and science does not know everything. Your doctor does not know everything. Your government does not know everything. Your parents don't know everything. Your teacher doesn't know everything. So why are we handing over our divine right of sovereign free thinking and questioning to these authority figures who we just assume has our best interest at heart? We lovingly, because we just so deeply want everyone to care at the level that we care. And the sad truth is that they don't. And often profits speak. People are incentivized to push prescription drugs, right? And for example, your doctor probably doesn't have any training in nutrition, doesn't have any training in emotional health or energy, body energy, spirituality, right? They have a very narrow view of medicine and what they've learned from their schooling, right? And their schooling often being paid for and subsidized by big pharma industries. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And it's not to say that doctors are bad. That's not what I'm saying. We definitely need doctors. And anyone who's listening that's a doctor, thank you for doing what you do. It's very important. But it's important to also understand the blinders that every person of authority has. The blinder, we all have blinders. I have blinders. You have blinders. Your doctor doesn't know everything, right? Your teacher doesn't know everything. Your insurance agent doesn't know everything. But we have this relationship with people in power where we just all of a sudden assume that they know everything, that they've looked at all the holistic views when it comes to our finances or our health, and they know what's best for us. When instead, especially in the medical system, we know now that their focus and approach is Band-Aid. Their focus and approach is trying to mask or make a symptom that you might be experiencing going away. But very rarely in our traditional allopathic system does anyone get to a root cause. Was anybody actually get into, like, why did you develop diabetes in the first place? Or where did your cancer start? No, it's let's eradicate it from the symptoms standpoint. I mean, we know this now. We know this Band-Aid approach that our medical system lives in. So why are we still giving our doctors so much power and control over what we do with our health? There's always going to be a knowledge gap, always. And the only truth that I know, and this is my truth, and I really want to encourage you to open up to your truth, is that when it comes to our health and our healing, I know that our body as a human being is actually designed to heal itself when we support it in doing so. We've been doing this since human beings were on the planet. And back in the good old days, it used to be through using herbs and natural treatments and maybe some energy healing as well, right? That quickly got stifled as soon as medicine started becoming, and science and doctors started becoming the be-all know-alls, right? We totally ditched this natural healing tendencies and modalities and belief system that our body could heal itself. Now, of course, that doesn't always work. Sometimes people are so sick that there's no amount of deep healing that can happen. And it might be their time to pass over to the other side, right? I'm not saying that this is always the case, but it is most often the case that our body always knows what's best for us. And our human body is freaking magical and literally has every capability and possibility to heal itself when we support it in doing so. And by getting out of our own way. So this is the biggest piece that we miss, is that we assume, here's the beliefs that most of you are carrying. And I'm lovingly calling you out because this is where we've been outsourcing our power. We believe that we need a magic pill. We need drugs, we need surgery, we need something outside of ourselves. We need a new book that's going to solve our problems. We need Danny to cure my sugar addiction, whatever that is, right? Or I need a psychedelic medicine journey to heal all my traumas. This outsourcing of needing something outside of ourselves is the wrong way of approaching health. And instead, to understand that if we look inward into why our disease is showing up in our body, why our body is sending us signals in the form of disease or ailments or headaches or addictive patterns, and actually going inward to tap into our inner healer and getting out of our own way. So sometimes this means cleansing. This means getting off processed food. This means stop drinking, stop eating gluten, right? Starting to fast. Like we know now that we can put our body into a healing state through changing what we eat, to prioritizing sleep and hydration, and to possibly fasting and sweating and other detoxification processes, right? If we can cleanse our body, and then, of course, the energetic pieces around cleansing our body of stuck and stagnant emotions, trauma, nervous system imprints, we can actually heal even from major diseases. But we have to believe it, right? We have to actually first believe that our body is capable of that. And most of us have never had that experience. But the more stories you hear of people really stepping into that, the harder it is to ignore. You know, for example, most of us have probably by now heard at least one story of someone getting diagnosed with maybe a horrible autoimmune disease or cancer and being given 3 months to live, but instead living 10 years because they chose very consciously not to believe the doctors and to believe that their body could heal from that ailment or that disimbalance that was showing up in their body. So the power of our mind is also something that is very ignored in medicine because it cannot be studied. It cannot be proven by a formula. So we need to begin and continue advocating for ourselves, right? And making decisions, especially when it comes to our health, based off what works for us and what feels right to us and what works for our lifestyle, not based off of what someone else has told us to do. I know this is sounding like a bit of a rant, but this is really, really important. And I'm really passionate about this. I'm really excited to plant these seeds for yourself to hopefully continue taking back your power and your divine right to speak your truth and to do what works for you and feels right for your body. And understanding that belief shift of needing something outside of yourself to feel better, to heal, to cure your sugar addiction versus tapping into your inner source of power and healing, because we're all healers. We're all healers if we actually tune into it. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see our world making, and I know a lot of you are doing this, I'm lovingly calling you out because I've done this a lot in my life as well, is in this outsourcing and in this patterning of this deep-rooted belief that others know what's best for us, we have lost the ability to ask questions. And not only that, but we don't ask good questions. Our teacher tells us that we have to put up our hand in order to get permission to go pee. And we don't even question it. That's the rule. I guess I have to do it. We don't ask questions about, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why can't I go to the bathroom, which is a natural drive and desire, when my body needs to? Diet commercials tell us that, all right, this year the new research is out and we need to eat 6 small meals a day instead of 3 big meals. And we don't even question it. We go, well, if it was on TV and I'm seeing ads for it on Facebook, it must be true. Big Pharma tells us that we need X drug or else we'll get sick and die, right? We've got to take this thing, and we don't even question it. We say, okay, I guess I got to take this thing. I mean, I see this with my friends and family. The doctor prescribes them something. Well, I guess I need antibiotics. Our government tells us that perhaps we have to put an experimental gene therapy in our bodies, or else we can't participate in society. And we don't even question it. We don't even ask the big questions. And this is one of the most potent and powerful ways that you can start taking your power back and begin insourcing your own health, is by asking good questions. And when it comes to people just giving you drugs or telling you to inject things in your body or eat a certain thing, right? Or do something, right? Oh, you've got to do this. I want you to start asking these better questions. Things like, well, who's behind this? Who stands to gain from me saying yes to this request? And especially financially, what are the other sides of this story? What are the other pieces of information that might be missing? For example, nutrition knowledge from doctors, right? That just don't have that education. Like, what else is missing from this person who's telling me what to do, or this government body that's telling me what to do? What's missing from this? Like, where might there be blind spots for these people? And then more importantly, how does this feel in my body when this person or this commercial or this mandate tells me to do something? How does it make sense for me and my family? But more importantly, right, like, does it feel right in my body? This is our source of our inner healer, is our intuition and our inner healing capabilities. And we need to start to learn to listen to this. So I want to share a couple things with you here for anyone listening, a couple little ways that you can possibly understand if you are outsourcing your health. So how do you really know if you're someone who is outsourcing your health and giving your power away? So it's things like if you say yes without tuning into yourself first. If you're an immediate yes when someone tells you to do something, especially around your health, oh, you got to do this thing to get off sugar, or you've got to do this, you have to do this, you have to take this drug, right? Maybe you struggle saying no. And if you do say no, you feel guilty, right? That is a massive, massive indicator that you are not in your power. Possibly you're also not honoring your monthly cycle. As a woman, even post, menopause, there is a monthly cycle that we can tune in with either the moon or within our menstrual cycle. And perhaps you're pushing yourself all the time. So are you in this go, 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 trying to do everything all the time, always having a big to-do list? Another warning sign here is that you're stuffing your emotions down. You're ignoring your emotions. You're pushing through that energy of just ignoring yourself, ignoring what's going on in your body because it's not safe. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. We've talked about that on the podcast, why we do that. If you struggle setting boundaries, or you consider yourself a people pleaser, if you don't trust your body, and if you find yourself always asking others for advice. This is a big one that I know a lot of my clients can nod their heads to. Are you always asking, what university should I go to? What job should I take? What should I make for dinner? What person should I marry? Right? Just pay attention to where you're asking others for advice and where you're taking their advice first before actually checking into your truth. Now, these are just a few indicators that I really see with people who are outsourcing their truth, outsourcing their power, outsourcing their health. And if you resonate with any of those, just know that this is a starting point for you. That's fantastic to be aware that this may be showing up for you, that you may be giving away your power, your ability to think freely, to ask good questions, to be a sovereign member of your society. Also involves going a little rogue, because when you become that person who asks questions, that person who doesn't blindly follow, that person that doesn't subscribe to binging on processed foods, you become very difficult to control. You become very difficult to manipulate and to trick into purchasing new products, right? Or going for that new sugar-free, fancy granola bar, right? Or whatever, you're really hard to make money from. You're really hard to stuff pills down your throat without questions when you're starting to ask questions, right? So there is a reason why they've made it really hard for us to think free. And I know that that's a little dark and that's a little maybe conspiracy theorist, but it's also kind of in our face. We know how big pharma, we know how big ag works, right? We know that they're profit driven and that they spend billions of dollars finding the bliss point in our brain so that they can target processed foods, especially sugary foods, to make us coming back for more, to make more money. Right? We know this. And I'm just bringing it out here and maybe triggering you with a lot of this, but I want to trigger you because in that you have an opportunity to look at things differently. And that is ultimately what we need to do if we want to get out of the rut that we're in. And I know so many women, so many of my clients are women who really struggle. They have no self-confidence. They don't know how to set boundaries. They really don't know how to look after themselves. They don't believe that their needs matter. They don't believe they're worthy. They don't believe like they're enough, and they have to prove themselves. We're constantly just living in this state of dis-ease with who we are. And then we binge on sugar to try to make ourselves feel better, right? And if you want to get out of this cycle, I hope you keep listening to this episode. And that's what I'm hoping to plant these subconscious seeds for you today to start thinking differently so you can start doing differently. So how do we actually start taking our power back? How do you actually start taking the steps to now you realize, and perhaps you are bringing that, step one always is awareness. So bringing that awareness to even just spending some time after listening to this episode, like where am I outsourcing my health, right? Or my decisions, right? Where am I doing that? Am I blindly following my doctor without asking questions, right? Am I blindly following my government without asking questions? So where is this showing up for you, right? Am I blindly following what my husband tells me to do without asking questions? And every time we do that, or my best friend, or my teacher, or my coach, right? Without asking questions, and just start noticing there. That is ground one. And then you're going to start asking better questions. You're going to start asking questions. This is a really important step in taking your power back, starting to question. I shared some good questions with you earlier. Obviously, there's so many more depending on the situation that you're in or what you're, dealing with. Ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Ask the butcher where your meat came from and how it was slaughtered. Ask your farmer what they sprayed on the food that you're eating. We don't ask. We just assume that everything in our food system is healthy for us. We know now, especially here in North America, how much glyphosate has been sprayed on our vegetables and how it's leading to cancer. And we know that things are not healthy, but we also choose not to see it. So ask questions, right? And it can be as simple as that of the products that you use in your home. Like ask, where you get your shampoo from. What are the things that are in your shampoo, right? And what are the possible side effects? So asking those questions is a big part of this. And then as you're continuing to take your power back, a big part of this is really discovering who you truly are. It's really hard to be empowered and to think for ourselves and be a sovereign human if we don't really know who we are. And that is one of the biggest traumas and tricks that has been played on us since childhood, right? We've all faced in one way or another that conflict between being ourselves and being liked, right? So as children, we learned how to shape ourselves into being someone that was a good little girl that could fit nicely into society, right? That behaved well and didn't speak out of turn. She wasn't too loud. She didn't dress too sexy. We fit in, right? So unlearning or like repatterning the social conditioning that we've been in so we can actually tap into who we really are is a massively important part of healing your relationship with sugar and, of course, taking your power back. And then, of course, on that healing journey, you're going to want to do some work with the trauma of and that time when you first gave your power away, right? Those early years of life when we can really tune into our inner child and understand that we did have to make that choice and that was really sad that we had to make that choice, that we don't live in a world where we can be our full true selves and be loved, right? And going back and doing some of that nervous system work and that healing work, because that is a trauma for all of us that we carry. And then, of course, you're going to surround yourself more consciously with other empowered women. So important. Other women who are willing to honor their emotions, who are willing to speak their truth, who are willing to set boundaries, who are willing to say no, who are willing to speak up for what they need. These are the women that I want in my life. Not just women, men too, right? These are the people that I want in my life. These are my friends. These are my people. And in that, we get to support each other in learning to say no, learning to set those boundaries, learning to tune in and trust your own body's wisdom, tuning into what you need, being able to communicate that. These are big, big steps in taking back your power. And ultimately, honoring and trusting your body's wisdom, what you need, and the messages. And trusting yourself over anyone else. This is a big journey. Learning to trust yourself again is massive. And it's difficult because we have spent our whole lives breaking trust with ourselves. So taking your power back is a massively important journey if you actually want to be healthy, if you actually want to tap into your body's ability to heal itself, and if you actually seriously want to get off of this binging, guilting, shaming roller coaster with food and stop stuffing and filling this void. This is a mandatory piece of your journey, is to quit the outsourcing of your health and tune fully into your divine inner knowledge. Your body knows. Your body knows what it needs to do to heal. It knows what it needs to do to get off sugar for good. It knows what it needs, but you don't know how to listen to it. And that's okay. There's no fault in that. None of us knew. We've been taught not to know. We've been trained not to listen to our body, right? Because we want to listen to all the other people. So just knowing this and starting that journey is so important. And I hope that you're feeling more empowered just by listening to this. And that you now maybe have some action steps or at least one piece that you can do to begin taking back your power and your health into your own terms. Now, if you're looking for support in this powerful inward healing journey, learning how to trust yourself again, learning how to tune into your authentic truth, learning how to listen to the wisdom and the messages of your body, I hope that you will come and join us for the next group of the Break Free from Sugar program. This is a program I only host once a year, and I cannot wait to kick off this healing journey again in January with our next group, our next cohort. Now, the Break Free from Sugar program will help you discover your truth, your deep power, your voice, your emotions, and help you detox from sugar physically, emotionally, and mentally so you can get back in the driver's seat with your relationship with food for good, right? When we insource, when we get back into our truth and our body, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do and what we can heal. And when we do that, when we tune back in, we release, we shed the layers. And we're going to be doing this in the program, shedding the emotional baggage, shedding those layers of belief systems, of old ways of doing things, of old ways of operating that are keeping us hooked on sugar. When we shed these, we create new ways of being. And that is the only way, when we do this from the root causes, not this surface level, just detoxing for 30 days or watching a bunch of videos and doing nothing with them. When we really get into the foundation and fill the cracks that may be there, we get to build on top of that in a way that lasts and is sturdy. So if that's something that you want, come and get your name on the wait list. I'm so excited to be opening up extra early bird registration for the next couple of weeks and starting this next program here in January. So you can find the link in the show notes below. Come and get your name. I'll share all the details with you about the program in your email. And thank you so much for tuning into another episode. I hope that you found this eye-opening and insightful. And I'm hoping that I kind of triggered you a little bit. I know that a lot of what I shared is really radical ideas or radical ways of possibly looking and seeing things. And that's okay. Because again, I want to remind you, in any of what I've shared, if it rubbed you the wrong way, if it triggered you, that is an opportunity for you. The odds are, is it rubbed you a certain way because there's some truth in it that you're not ready to face. And I really hope that you have the courage to sit with that for yourself. Maybe do some journaling about what came up for you from what I shared, right? Or journaling about, why these things really showed up for you today, right? And possibly starting to just second guess what you've been taught or even your beliefs. I love this. You cannot spell belief without the word lie, right? Beliefs are not truths. They're statements, ways of seeing the world that we believe to be true, right? That we cement into our day-to-day life, but they can be changed. I do a lot of work with limiting beliefs in the Break Free from Sugar program with my clients, because we need to shift out of those limiting beliefs around sugar, around food, around our bodies, right? I'm broken. It's impossible to give up sugar, right? When we think and believe that way, we'll never be free from food. And it's the same with all the other things in our life, right? So I'm challenging you to reflect on your beliefs, the stories you're telling yourself about your doctor knowing everything or your government knowing what's best for you, right? Or whatever the example is. And spend some time integrating that. And it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. Changing the way that we see the world that we live in and our role in it and our ability to stand up for ourselves in it is a massive job, but it's not impossible. And it's the journey that I've been on with my inner healing over the last almost decade to continue to free myself from old patterns of thinking, old ways of doing it, old societal norms. I don't want to be normal because our society is not working. It's not working. Everyone's exhausted. Everyone's extremely sick. I do not want to subscribe to that mode of living. I'm going to live a different way. And I'm going to decide what that is based off of me, my unique body, my lifestyle, the dreams that I have, what I want to do. And I want you to do that too. And it's okay. And it's beautiful if it's different than what I want and what I believe. I think that's beautiful. And I think we need more of that in this world and that respect and acceptance for how everyone wants to live. I want you to know that I love you and I respect you and I encourage you to become your own person and ask your own questions. And don't be afraid to stand up for the things that you believe in. And then go out there and heal your addiction with sugar. All right, everyone. Enough of that. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free series and other amazing resources in the show notes below.